We will start the day with our first keynote session on the Metaverse Experiences, transcending physical and digital divides. I would like to call up on stage Mr. Fayiaz Chaudhri, Chief Legal Officer at TONOMUS.
Welcome, Mr. Chaudhri.
Thank you, everyone, for having me and also for being here. So the structure is going to be, we're going to try and talk for about 15 minutes and then leave you about 7 or 8 minutes in the end for questions. So I hope you enjoy it. So when I was told to do a presentation on the metaverse, I thought it's day 2, you've probably been sort of destroyed and death by PowerPoint with all those presentations you've had to listen to previously. So I thought I'd take you through a journey. Thanks, thank you, that's better. So I thought I'd take you through a journey of what the metaverse is, why we need it, what the current applications are, and how we think it's going to work in the future. And then finally, particularly for Yasser, who's here somewhere, I leave you with a human story, which you'll find appealing and also resonates with you. So let's get started. So this is Simon Kofi. Simon Kofi is a foreign minister of a small island state in the Pacific Ocean. He's standing in the middle of the sea to donate the issues with climate change. He's trying to show that with climate change, the sea levels are going to rise, and as they rise, his island state will all be drowned under the sea. So for him, the metaverse is not a choice. The metaverse is actually a necessity. Or if he wants to preserve everything which he holds dear, if he wants to preserve the oceans, the culture, his land, if he wants to have something which he can push to his future generations, if he wants them to understand what it was like to be him in his country, with his culture, with his way of working, then he needs to recreate everything which is physical into the virtual world. He needs to recreate everything into the metaverse. Because without the metaverse, in 20 years, with the sea levels rising, there will be no Simon Kofi. There will be no territory of his, and there'll be nothing to pass on to his generations. So what does the metaverse actually represent? The metaverse is going to change the way we communicate, the way we interact, the way we connect with one another. So essentially, the metaverse is going to change the way we act as humans. And so let's go through and understand what we think the metaverse is and what it is not. So I have a friend, her name's Ruba. For her, the metaverse is a gaming platform. So every Friday at the end of her day, she gets together with all of her friends. She goes on to the metaverse. She connects with all of her friends from all around the world. They game. They go through the metaverse experiences together. So for Ruba, the metaverse is a purely gaming platform. For other people, it's a social metaverse. It's their way of escaping their physical world, of going into their virtual reality to do things maybe they couldn't do in their physical world. Maybe there's geographical limitations. Possibly there are some skill limitations, temperature limitations. Whatever they want to do, however they want to socialize, however they want to interact. For them, it's a social metaverse. For them to socially interact with people they would otherwise never bump into. For them to be part of this virtual world. And finally, you have what we call the digital twin metaverse, where you have cities which have buildings and cars and lampposts and buses. You have factories with assembly lines, anything which is physical, which you can then duplicate into the virtual world. The reason why you would want to do that is to try and explore, to benefit from, and interact with the physical world. And to do that, you create a digital twin, so a twin of the virtual world or the physical world into the virtual world. So at the moment, we feel that we're either in the virtual world, once we put our headsets on, or we're in the physical world. What's actually going to happen is in the future, we won't be in the physical world, we won't be in the virtual world, we'll just simply be living. And to do that, you need a link. You need something which can merge both of them together. And that's essentially what the metaverse is. It's a link which merges the physical and virtual world into one single seamless experience. It's a link which will make you feel like you're just living. Like you're not in the virtual world, you're not in the physical world, you're literally just living. So what can the metaverse do for you? So with current applications, biomedical research is a huge one. And so the metaverse is currently being used where if you imagine the best minds in the world connecting together through the metaverse universe, being able to use all of their brain power to do biomedical research, whether it's to cure diseases, whether it's to just understand the issues we have with general medical treatment. There was an article recently where a doctor was able to perform surgery 7,000 miles away from the actual patient, again, using the metaverse universe as the experience. So biomedical research is a great current application of the metaverse and is being used now. Urban construction. Imagine a world where you can now build a building, and while you're building it, you can interact with it. You can walk around and see if the space really fits. You can see how it looks in the landscape of the city. You can see if it really meshes with the skyline of the city. You can feel if the traffic is going to flow the way you think it's going to flow. And you can make sure that the building does everything which it needs to do and meets its objectives. So urban reconstruction is another great experience of the metaverse. And finally, talent teleportation. So we all know with COVID, everyone wants to be at home. We got used to being at home. We got used to being in our current environment. And so the problem with that is COVID is now over. People don't want to come to the office. And if you don't come to the office, you can't interact. You can't really build a culture, and you can't have individuals be part of an enterprise or be part of a company. So what do? Do you disenfranchise your talent and force them to come to the office? Well, instead of that, you can use the metaverse, where they can all connect through the metaverse and be as if they were in one room. And these are applications which are being used at the moment. So we'll go on now to a bit more of a monologue, and we'll look at the future applications of the metaverse. And so any area where you can merge the physical and the digital world into a single seamless experience, where either you're exploring, you're building, or you're interacting, or maybe you're traveling, whatever that experience is, as long as it can make it better, you can use the metaverse. So we're going to go through education. You may have seen ads from Accenture. We're using education as the metaverse. We're going to go through construction. We're going to go through enterprises and tourism and government. You would have noted that governments are trying to announce putting their physical cities into the virtual world to give their citizens much more experiences and much better services. So let's try and go through this one by one. So imagine a classroom with completely an immersive experience, where you're no longer restricted by the boards or the books, where it doesn't matter where you are or where you're from, where your experience is the same. Imagine a classroom where if you're learning about the cosmos, you can see the stars fly by. You can see the moon revolve around the Earth. You can see the sun shine so brightly. You can actually be in space and look down on the Earth like you've never seen before. Imagine a classroom where if you're from the north or the south or the east or the west, it doesn't matter. Your experience is all inclusive. You can fulfill your full potential, and you can be completely creative. And a classroom powered by the metaverse. Imagine a construction where you can get engineers from America, you can get construction engineers from India, you can get architects from France, you can put them all together into one room for them to collaborate and construct, for them to build the next generation of cities, for them to be able to give you the cities and the construction which you deserve and you need for the future, again, through the metaverse. Imagine tourism, which is now completely borderless, where you no longer have to travel, where every travel is instantaneous, where if you want to go to the hotel, you can actually walk into the hotel. You can walk into the room you've booked. You can feel the air on your face. You can touch the sheets of the bed. You can smell the sea as you walk around the seaside, or you can go through multiple destinations and multiple countries, all from the comfort of your own home. Imagine a government which is now citizen-centric, with streamlined services and a one-stop shop, where you no longer have to queue for your passports or your driving licenses, where everything is streamlined for you, where it's truly a government for the people, by the people, for the benefit of its citizens. Imagine an enterprise where your culture is completely immersive, where it doesn't matter where you are, you're always connected, where wherever you want to live, wherever you want to be, wherever you want to belong from, wherever you want to work from, you're part of one, connected completely, part of one team, one enterprise, and one corporation. The issue is we always look at things which are different. We don't look at things which bind us together, but what binds us together is much more prevalent and much more stronger than what keeps us apart. Technology should always be used for good, and we're living in the most technologically advanced institution and time in the history of mankind. So whether you're black or you're white or you're brown or you're Asian or any other of the multitude of races and tribes of this world, we have an obligation in a world full of struggle and strife to make sure it's a better world. We have an obligation to make sure it's a world which we're proud of, a world which we can provide to our children. So the question is, what will you do? How will you be perceived? What will the generation say about you? Did you use the metaverse for good or any technology for good? For we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to the people who have walked the earth and will always walk the earth in the future. We owe it to our future generations. We owe it to everyone who's ever going to live on this earth, whether it's Simon Kofi and his small island in the Pacific Ocean, or whether it's the children who are struggling for a better future. We owe it to them to use technology for good, to come together for them. Thank you. I shortened it a little bit just to keep you entertained. Okay, any questions? You can talk legal questions now rather than the journey. Yes, ma'am.
I'll hand you.
Good morning, everyone. At the bottom of your presentation, you had .neom.
Yes.
How are you affiliated with NEOM? And I love your presentation.
I'm the Chief Legal Officer.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah, TONOMUS is the tech and digital division of NEOM.
I have to say that this is by far the most interesting presentation about the metaverse I've seen in a long time. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry about the echo. There's nothing I can do.
Any questions?
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
It'll be easy for me, yeah.
Hi, good morning. Amazing presentation, really.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to know, how do you use Metaverse? How do you access it? I know there's this the glass sort of a thing that you have to purchase, the VR, but how do you get to it? That's my question.
So great question. So at the moment, you've got three ways of doing it. You can put on your virtual reality headsets. They kind of, they're quite expensive, about $400 or sort of maybe 1,600 reals or dirhams, if you want to talk about dirhams. And then you can go into metaverse universes which already exist. You can create your digital assets, whether you're a government or you're a corporation, and you can recreate your digital assets. A government's already, so Greece is a good example of that. Thailand is a good example of that. Ukraine is a good example of that, where they're actually just making a digital twin of their current physical cities into the virtual world. So that's one way to do it. Naturally, as we progress and as companies are now getting into the metaverse and using it for their benefit, you're going to start getting technology which is much cheaper because of quality and quantity. you're going to get much more immersive experiences, and you won't have to wear the glasses anymore. We're about a year and a half probably away from getting rid of those VR glasses. So at NEOM, with the, so NEOM, you may know, we're building that big city at the middle of the desert. It's a very celibate life for me there. But so they're at the cutting edge of this, and what they're trying to do is to give you a kind of a seamless experience. So some of the stuff we looked at, travel is a good example. That's the mock-up of Trojana, which is a ski resort they're building by 2026. And so what they're trying to do is to give you that sort of interactive access and also have the metaverse as part of their cognitive city solutions. So the answer to your question really is, at the moment, it's VR and connection. We're probably about a year and a half away from losing that. So you're not going to have to wear your PlayStation VR headsets, no. So you won't have to worry about how you look in the mirror. That's fine, don't worry. It will be good. And then with any technology, it all depends on the ability for people to actually benefit from it, to accept it, to also to adopt it. And if we're going to stay with $500 headsets, then obviously you can't do what you need to do for the rest of the world. So everyone's working towards that, or away from that even. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hello, this is Yasser. I'm here. Fayiaz. Yes.
Hey, Yasser.
How are you?
Sorry, I can't see you in the lights.
No worries. I knew that it will be an impressive presentation, but I think you went beyond my expectation, as usual.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
What you would tell me, as a very traditional lawyer,
Yeah.
who's impressed now about the concept of the metaverse, and I would like to get a chance to influence, to accelerate, to promote the culture of the metaverse, right? To be part of the digital transformation journeys of companies. What you would tell me?
So there's kind of three things which are happening. No one's really building a new metaverse universe anymore because they exist. So we have 4 or 5 of those already, which are mainly used. So what organizations are doing are trying to find use cases for it. Governments are doing the same thing. So a use case is basically, essentially just having a digital twin in the metaverse, and then having services and products which people can interact with. At the moment, and I think you went there a little bit with your question, at the moment there's an issue about IP as well. What happens? Hey, I've got my logo on a big building. If a city's going to put the building up in the metaverse, what happens to the IP? What happens to my trademark if someone starts misusing it? And so those kind of questions are being answered. I think the current guidance from everyone around the IP world and from all the different IP organizations is that we're going to use existing laws and implement in the metaverse. So if you have trademarks protected, registered within the UK, US, the Middle East, or anywhere else, then those will be protected. So you've got that kind of protection. Because you have that kind of protection of your IP, you can now go and build digital assets. So really, the organizations are using it kind of for 3 ways. A, for the digital twin, as we talked about. Secondly, people like Accenture and other big IT service companies are now using the metaverse to provide services. To provide services which are needed, either sort of your business process outsourcing, which used to be just very simple back office function. You've got 50 people basically doing your invoices for you, or looking at NDAs, which we use sometimes. Nowadays, rather than that, you have companies who are going into the metaverse, using it to get all those business process services there much more interactively and with much better quality. Education is a big thing. I mean, Accenture's made a huge thing about education and the metaverse. They've got ads going all over the place for it. So education is one of the key things and where everyone is going. Schools are going to be different. In 10 years' time, I wish I was born sort of 40 years later than I was. But in about 10 years' time, education is going to be completely different. You know, your writing on the board, your books, your laptops will all be gone. Because now you can sit there and, as I said, you can see the stars revolve around your Earth, and you can just learn in a much better way. And research shows interactive, immersive experience is much, much better as a learning tool than any books, any boards, anything else. So that's kind of the way they're using it. And then finally, tourism. You already would have seen some of the hotels getting to the virtual stage where you can go in and you can look around the room and you have a 360 video. So imagine your real estate agent or your estate agent. I'm trying to work out American or English. Or your estate agent. And what he does at the moment when you're trying to sell your house, he says, oh, I'm going to do a 360 tour and people can walk around it. So imagine that times 100, where you can interact with the sofas, where you can feel it on your hands, where you can really walk through the rooms and sit on the sofa and work out how it feels actually to be in that house. Where you can say to your wife, hey, I'm at work because I've got things to do and I'm really busy. But if you want to go and see a house, I'll meet you there. I'll connect from my work, you can connect from wherever you are, and we'll meet together in that house and we'll do a house tour. Those sort of things are coming up. And coming up actually really rapidly, and much rapidly than people think. So one of the things, the Trojana thing, again, not to self-publicize, but the Trojana thing is a Metaverse experience which is going to be ready by the end of the year, and because they're opening the ski resort in 2026. So there, you'll literally be able to go to the hotel, work out the room you wanted, look out the window, see the view if you like it, interact with everything in the room, open the cupboards, make sure all of your great suits and shorts and shirts can fit in there, walk around the resort, make sure it's what you really wanted. So that interactive travel experience, which is already, nearly there, probably in 6 months' time. So this time next year, we'll talk about that, maybe. Thank you, Yasser, for your question. Yes, sir.
Hey, hi, I'm Amit here, and congratulations for awesome presentation that you have given
Thank
here.
you. Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask that what are the legal challenges around this metaverse? In brief, very brief.
Oh, you're going to take it from a keynote speech to a legal question. Okay. So legal challenges, no, it's okay. No, I'm just teasing. The main legal challenges are IP. And the IP challenge is kind of threefold. The first is, what happens if someone wants to digitize your trademark because it's on a billboard somewhere, it's on a building or something happens? And what rights do you have? Can you stop it? Can you not stop it? Can you control it? The second issue is, what happens if someone actually infringes your IP? Takes the NEOM trademark and says, hey, I'm building a city in, I don't know, in Jordan somewhere, and does that. What do you do in the metaverse? The problem with the metaverse at the moment is, it's the problem with all of the internet, where trying to find out who the end infringer is hard. There is no tool which can monitor all the universes at the moment and keep an eye out for IP infringement. There is no tool. So you have to basically do it manually with a little bit of artificial intelligence help. So bots, really. You build bots, they just walk around and they keep checking all the universes. But there is no one universal tool where you can say, hey, just automatically monitor. Even if you can monitor and you find out someone's infringing your IP, because of the way the metaverse is, you have people with avatars, you have people with sort of virtual reality and their virtual beings. It's hard to work out who is the actual infringer and how you stop them. In the physical world, if you're infringing my IP, I know it's you. So I can come to you and I can take you to court and I can do whatever I want to do. In the metaverse, I may not be able to find you because you're an avatar with no link. So one of the things they're doing at the moment, and these are all of the IP organizations around the world, they're working with the metaverse universe owners to have general terms and conditions and things, very similar to what happened with the internet in sort of 2002, 2003, where they came up with usage terms, they came up with responsibilities about, for example, is it the metaverse universe, is it their responsibility to take down anything infringing? I mean, is it for the individual or the company to do it? So all of those responsibilities and where they lie are all being sorted out with current discussions. The aim has always been with IP to not put a new classification. So use your usual NIST classifications. I think it's class 9 for software and 38 for retail and everything else. So the aim is to use the same classifications and just have them applicable in the metaverse. So I think IP is a big issue, which we have to sort out, particularly with the way this is going to work in the future.
Okay, I think IP can be one, the other can be a private data privacy.
Sorry? Go ahead.
From a privacy law perspective, any data
I still
breach
couldn't
and
hear
all?
you, I'm sorry.
Any problem from privacy law perspective in this?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that if something happens which is illegal in the physical world, it should probably be illegal in the virtual world. And with privacy, I mean, if I have an avatar who's just harassing me all day and is just making my life difficult every time I go to the metaverse, but all I want to do is game with my friends or interact with people I can't interact with, then how do I stop that? So that's an issue. The second issue is actually, and it's a hard thing to say, too much privacy. Because you can't have it both ways. You can either, and I'm very slightly right-wing with these kind of things. So you can either have privacy or you can have security. You can't have both. So this is a good example in the UAE. You have complete security, you have absolutely zero privacy, right? That's true. And I hope they don't kick me out. Well, they can. I'm in Saudi anyway. Fine, I'm in Saudi Arabia. So you have absolutely zero privacy. And the balance is you have complete security. You could leave your car outside and unlocked and nothing would ever happen. Well, we've all done that. My house is never unlocked. Don't go there now, but it's never unlocked. Never locked. And so there's a balance. So the same with the metaverse, whatever security you need, you're going to have to give up a bit of privacy. You can't have both. You can't say we want to have complete privacy as virtual beings, as avatars, and then say, hey, we're getting harassed or we're not getting the right security. It's going to have to be a balance. So for privacy, people are going to have to just accept the balance. And people do. I mean, they accept it here. They know, everyone knows their WhatsApps are being monitored on a regular basis. There was a famous story a few months ago where some guy WhatsApped his friend and said, hey, I left my weed bong in your car, so make sure you take it home. And then as he was driving home, the police stopped him and said, oh, there you go, got that. So it was in the paper, so it's a famous story. So the same with Saudi, same with other countries. But the benefit of that is you have complete security. So that's the balance people are going to have to achieve on that. We've got 3.5 minutes, so we've got a few more questions. There's like 3, so we'll go.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks so much.
Thank you. Shall we go that way and then we go around? I
Thank you
saw
very
that,
much.
yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this amazing presentation and also for the way you answer the questions. It has been extremely helpful and interesting.
Thank you.
The question that I have is the following. Could the metaverse be used for money laundering?
Yes.
And how?
You want to go do it?
No,
We can partner.
it's a hobby of mine. AML is a hobby.
I
of
have
mine.
no scruples. We can partner.
Good.
No-
Let's meet.
Not even an envelope required. You can just cash over the table is fine. No, so yes, you can, particularly if you put it together with blockchain. So if we put it together with blockchain technology, so your digital coins and assets like the Bitcoins and the Ethereums and everything else of this world. So if you connect the two together, then essentially you have a universe where you can be as private as you need to be. You can be a different version of yourself, and then you can use blockchain technology to interact and money launder if you wanted to. I don't think it's any bigger problem than it is at the moment. I mean, if you wanted to, not that I know, but probably not. But if you wanted to do something illegal, then the person you would employ would at the moment would take Bitcoins, maybe, and maybe Ethereum as well, or maybe even Dogecoins if they're very unlucky. So I think the problem already exists. The question is really going to be, what do the banks and the central finance institutions and functions do? If they can adopt blockchain technology, if they can use it and actually bring all of this virtual currency into a regulated environment, which they're doing. I mean, the Senate in the US is doing that. You're having conversations in the UK, in Europe, all over the place. Then you can control the money laundering. And then the other problem is we're going to have no encryption in about a few years' time. The quantum computing is going to destroy all of our encryptions. Your 512-bit encryption can actually probably be cracked by quantum computing in about 3 seconds. So none of your passwords, none of that is ever going to work. And so there's going to have to be then a leap in terms of encryption. That's why I think blockchain technology is really going to be mainstream, because they're going to need that. That's the only way to encrypt once you have quantum computing. And once you have the mainstream and you regulate the virtual currencies, then it doesn't matter whether it's the metaverse or whatever other situation it is. The problem's the same and the solution's probably the same too. We've got two more. So, sorry, I didn't see. There was someone who put their hand up. Was there someone? No. Okay. Yes, you.
So I have a question.
Sorry, I've got lights in my eyes, so I can hardly see.
It's no problem. So on the banking and investment side, most transactions, buy and sell, are being recorded at some level, right? In
Yeah.
today's world. So as we translate to the metaverse, they are going to be recorded as well. How legitimate is that recording on the metaverse in a legal case in court?
It is completely legitimate because they're using the same technology. It's all going to be blockchain based. So it does, and this is where, we, in our mind, when we're talking about the dichotomy, we think about, hey, this is a virtual world and this is a physical world. But once the metaverse becomes universal and where everyone's using it, then there is no distinction. Whether you're going to the bank in the
Happy to
metaverse
know.
or you're going to the bank in the physical world, doesn't matter. The only difference is in the virtual world, you don't have to queue, hopefully. If you have to queue, there's no difference. Sorry, yes, and then there's one at the end. We're kind of running out of time, but please go ahead.
Actually, I have a concern about the problematic thing. I think the most problematic thing in the context of the legal side is the burden of proof. As we don't have an tangible evidence in order to prove our cases.
Yeah.
So I think this is the most challenging feature in the context of metaverse. That burden of proof, the lawyers will get confused. How can we extract our evidence in order to bring our case before the
Yeah, so it's the same issue about, are you going to know who the end user is? They're telling me to get off. So are you going to know who the end user is? And that's the issue. If you can get to the end user, then you can get to your evidence and everything else. If, however, you have avatars which would not work, or they're hiding the end users, if the terms of the universes are such that you can have complete privacy, then it becomes really hard for everyone, for IP, for corporations, for everyone. But for adoptability, you're going to have to just have that balance of privacy and security. There was one last one, then I need to get off the stage. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the presentation. Just one question. How about the concept of fraud? How do we deal with it in metaverse? So for example, a promise made in the virtual world, if it doesn't manifest in the physical world in the same way, what are the consumer rights and how do we go about it?
So this is where, at the moment in our mind, we can't distinguish. Well, actually, we can't understand the fact that it's all going to be one. At the moment, we think, hey, this is my physical world. I put my headset on. I'm in the virtual world. Everything is different. I can do whatever I want. I can be whoever I want. But the concept of the metaverse is not to give you an escape. That's where we are at the moment, because people use it for gaming and social and everything else. The concept of the metaverse really is to just completely merge the two things together. So it doesn't matter if you're in the virtual world or the physical world, you're basically just living. And if you're just living, whatever you do, however you do it, with whomever you do it, you have the consequences. If you get married in the metaverse, I'm sure your wife will be really unhappy here too. I promise you she will. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. It's great to be here, and I appreciate all the support. Thank you.